Good afternoon, Mr. Esau.
Thank you.
Mr. Alteves, you may proceed.
As it please the court. Mr. Esau, in the Namgoma scheme, were you working together with Mr. Ricardo Gustavo to pull off this, as I'd call it, heist of state resources?
That is all.
Okay. In your evidence, you had referred to a certain letter, Exhibit V1, the letter of 7 July, I think standard divider 21.
21.
Divider 21, Your Lordship.
Yes, my lord. W1.
And we also had a look at Exhibit V5, which is a letter by Mr. Gustavo addressed to you of 23 November 2015.
Which divider is that?
Still under the same divider.
Do we have V5? I might have omitted numbering that one. I only numbered up to V4.
Yes, Your Lordship. It's in our file it's marked as 5.
Is it the one with the subject matter horse mackerel or Quota for 2016 season?
Yes, Your Lordship.
That is V5.
5. Yes, Your Lordship.
Do you confirm, Mr. Biekas, if you have the document?
I do have the document, my lord, but I'm not sure if we tell them it is evidence.
Are the others marked, though?
Mine is marked up to V4.
Like mine as well?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure if it's marked that one. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more letters that are not marked.
I don't always omit. I don't always omit that aspect of marking. So I lean in favor of saying that it might not have been marked.
As it is a court.
Yes, received as an exhibit.
Yeah. In any event, Mr. Esau, this letter on 23 November 2015, did you receive this letter?
It was received by the office of the minister on the 24th of November.
Did you receive this letter?
By the office of the minister, that's what I mean. Because there's a stamp, my lord, on the receiving by there.
Yes, I understand.
Let me testify,
Okay.
just for the convenience of the court, that I received the letter. Then I can testify on this letter then.
Okay.
Just for convenience, my lord.
You want to testify?
Yeah, I wait for the question. I wait for the, because I said I will testify on it. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I'll just repeat the question. Did you receive this letter? I know it was received by the office of the minister. It has a stamp there. But you personally, did you receive it?
There are letters, my lord, that is addressed to the minister, but you don't receive. If such letter is coming, it will be referred either by the PA to the relevant desk in terms of quotas, because it talks about horse mackerel quota for 2016 season.
Not in general. We are talking about this letter in particular.
I am testifying, my lord,
Okay.
that this very letter was received by the office of the minister, but I cannot attest now whether I have seen it or not.
Oh, okay.
I'm indifferent, in fact.
Oh, okay. Remember in your evidence in chief, you had testified in connection with the introduction of Mr. Gustavo by the PS, late PS.
Correct, my lord.
And that was when you were testifying on Exhibit V1, is that correct?
Let me just go back to V1. Yes, my lord, I think I did testify W1.
That the PS came with a tall person to your office
I recall that, my lord.
and told you that that's the person from Namgoma Pesca SA.
Correct, my lord.
Okay. And when you met him, he was briefly introduced to you.
Very briefly, because I was on my way out, as I've said, and they came in, and I never had time at least to sit down with him to really to get the story of who he is, from where he's come. But he said this is a Namgoma representative for.
Oh, okay. So at least you knew at that stage Mr. Gustavo's involvement with Namgoma as a representative of Namgoma Pescas.
I was introduced, as I've said, briefly, my lord.
Yeah.
And on the issue of the Namibia-Angola agreement, that Namgoma is representing Namgoma, the person.
You were briefed on the Namibia-Angola agreement that is representing Namgoma.
I was briefed on the agreement prior to the signing of the agreement.
Yes.
Yeah, but I was also briefed, my lord, on, in fact, introduced, not briefed, introduced to Ricardo, but very briefly. I never had even asked him questions where he's working and things like that. No, I was standing. In fact, I had my bag in my hands to go out for another engagement.
Okay. So that was the only time that you interacted with Mr. Gustavo.
Correct to my recollection, my lord.
All right. Now, in the magistrate's court, we called the witness to testify. You recall that, Mr. Olivier?
Correct.
It was put by your counsel to Mr. Olivier that you, Mr. Esau, never interacted with Mr. Gustavo. Do you agree with that?
I agree, because I never had interacted with him.
Yes. I asked. All right. I asked you now if that was the only interaction you had with Mr. Gustavo. You confirm?
Correct, my lord. That I can confirm.
When he was introduced to you?
Yeah, when he was briefly introduced. After that, no, I have not person to person. No.
What do you say about this instruction then, that you never interacted with Gustavo? What is your comment on that?
I never interacted, my lord. If we meet, I have now met my lord in the court here. We never interacted. I never asked where is he from in terms of staying here or things like that. No, I've never interacted. I just know him by, he is the person that was involved in the Namgoma matter.
All right, Mr. Levy, affidavit with you?
Mr. Johannes.
Mr. Esau's affidavit, your lordship.
Yes, I have it here, my lord.
Paragraph 47.4.
47.4. Yes, my lord.
What did you inform the court in that paragraph?
I informed the court that my office as a minister was appraised and a recommendation was made to me for approval of Namgoma Pesca through the office of the late Permanent Secretary to harvest marines in the Namibian EEZ. Now, Ricardo Gustavo never interacted directly with me on any occasion whatsoever. He is not a friend, acquaintance, or a business associate of mine in any matter whatsoever. I had no knowledge whatsoever of his involvement at that time.
In this matter?
In this matter, yes.
Okay. So, but from your evidence today, you said that he was introduced to you as the person from Namgoma Pescas.
Was appraised by the late PS to harvest marine resources.
And what is your comment then on your evidence in the magistrate's court that you had no knowledge whatsoever of his involvement in this matter?
My lord, in my evidence, with special reference to Ricardo Gustavo, my evidence is very clearly captured here in 47.4. That is my evidence. And I'm here, viva voce, at least to confirm this very evidence, that I have not really sit down with him to go into the details of who exactly he is, where is he staying and things like that. I never had a discussion. I was just briefly, as I said, I was on my way out of the office. And I was said, this is the gentleman, Mr. Gustavo, who is in fact involved in Nangoma Peshka. That's it, under the Namibia-Angola agreement.
All right, no, it's fine, we can move on. When are you the Minister of Fisheries? When are you appointed?
2010, my lord.
2010.
21st March 2010.
And as you were the Minister of Fisheries, did you put in place any policies on allocation of rights and quotas?
In 2010?
Any time after your appointment?
Policies put in place in 2010. My lord, if I put policies in place, it must go to cabinet. That's a cabinet directive and concurrence that I need to get. I have never gone to cabinet in placing policies, especially with the harvesting. Yeah, the harvesting, I was, when new rights were invited, I went to cabinet for new rights. The rights of 2017, 2018, recently issued rights, I went also to cabinet to get concurrence of cabinet there. As a minister, if I have to take from 2010 to 2019.
Okay. So there were some policies which were in place for allocation of rights and quotas.
There were policies in terms of rights to invite people to apply for rights, and then the harvesting. There was an issue of a pro rata, the allocations of quotas, because I was also not so clear, and I came with a scorecard on the weights that needs to be because I was not aware what is the weight per criteria that was appropriated or determined, which was determining the quota allocations.
All right, I just want you to quickly have a look at a document here. You see there's a statement there.
Sworn affidavit.
Whose statement is that?
Dr. Moses Mauri Hungiri.
And he was your permanent secretary?
Yes, my lord.
All right. And attached to his statement, it's written page 334 at the top. What document is that?
Policy statement for the granting of rights to harvest marine resources.
Okay. This was in 2013.
Correct, my lord?
It's you who put this policy in place.
Look, I can attest that I've never put in any policy in place, especially this one, which is allocation of fishing quotas. When policies are formulated, my lord, in the ministry, to my experience, this policy guidelines are placed, are mapped out by the officials, management, and implemented by the management.
So you are not aware of any policies that they themselves?
I can't recall.
They never came to the minister? To you
yeah, sometimes people were, yeah, for sure. I had that problem.
You had that problem?
I had that problem in the ministry. People are changing things without me, with my knowledge. But I know that when I go to cabinet, because this policy was supposed to go to cabinet as well, and I don't see any cabinet submission pertaining to this very policy.
Are you aware of who wrote this policy?
Find out from the author who submitted the evidence of this very one. Ask Dr. Moses Mauri Hungiri who write this very policy. Because, as I said, I had my challenges, my lord, I had my issues in the ministry as well. And I was, on my appointment as a minister, I was handed over a file by my predecessor, the late Dr. Abraham Yambo. He gave me a file with policies that was already done, which in fact talks about the allocation of quotas as well, fishing quotas, which I got from him, and I've never changed any policy pertaining to the allocation of fishing quotas.
All right. And you see from Mr. Moses' statement at page 2,
Yes, my lord.
where he stipulates that I now attach the policy statement, guidelines for the granting of rights to harvest marine resources, and the allocation of fishing quotas 2013 as annexure MM1. And then he further attached
Which paragraph, Mr.
Which paragraph?
paragraph 5, Your Lordship, the second paragraph.
No, the last
Yes, Your Lordship.
paragraph.
And he says that I further attach government notice Marine Resources Act 27 of 2000, see annexure MM2, or section 33 and 39 relates to this regard. All right, so this is the guidelines that they were relying on. It appears from the statement of Mr. Moses, is that right?
This is what he's in fact affirming here
Yeah, okay.
in terms of his affirmative, what is it, his sworn affidavit.
Yeah, yeah. And then he outlines the process for the awarding of rights.
Correct, my lord, I see on page 3.
On evaluation process, there's an indication there that has empowered by the Marine Resources Act, the minister may appoint an evaluation committee to evaluate received applications.
That was in line of the old policy statement which I got that the minister may appoint.
So you are not following this policy yourself when you were there?
I followed the old policy, my lord, in terms of which I was handed over by my predecessor.
Oh, okay.
I have a file of that, but unfortunately, my lord, since I'm in incarceration, I don't have access to my documentation now.
All right.
Yeah.
So this policy, which was put in place while you were still minister, you are saying you never followed this policy yourself?
I followed the old policy, my lord,
Oh,
because in terms of, I don't know what changes was brought about in the old policy and this new one which was brought here. I don't know what any changes was brought about. I've testified that you have ayatollahs already, people who takes the steering of the vehicle and drive it.
yes. All right, let me just read to you one paragraph from his statement, paragraph 4, page 2, where he outlined the process with regard to the rights. The procedures and regulations for fishing rights and quotas are as follows. The Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources will call for Namibians to apply for fishing rights via government notice, and the notice stipulating the different species that are available for application and giving the specific period. The applications are to be lodged to the ministry. I see you agreeing with that.
Yeah, I am, because it's similar to the old one.
Okay. After having received applications, after the deadline, the minister will constitute an evaluation committee to deal with the applications. You see that?
Correct?
Is that what used to happen?
This is what, after the evaluation committee, in terms of 33, yes.
So that is the process that you follow.
Correct.
All right. And once the evaluation committee process has been completed by the committee, their recommendations will be provided to the minister. Is that correct?
Correct?
Who in turn will select the successful applicants as according to the available species. Is that correct?
As recommended?
Yes.
As recommended, my lord.
Okay. So you select as recommended.
My lord, when it's recommended to the minister, the minister will, in fact, the office of the PS will prepare a cabinet memo. And that memo will go to cabinet for cabinet to endorse. And in terms of the selection of successful applicants, that is also guided by the criteria of allocations of quotas. And they, as a technical committee, that's what we call the evaluation committee, they will for sure come and say, look out, this is the amount of rights we can give in this very fisheries. This is the amount of rights we can give, for argument's sake, hake, horse mackerel, and things like that. As a minister, I could not, in fact, really say that we must go for this and that. All what I wanted to see is that there is fairness, there is equitableness, and there is justice in this very recommended allocations. I put my signature there, and my signature doesn't mean that I have selected this very thing. This is the way I have been operating in the ministry.
Okay. I'm just outlining to you what the witness says.
Correct, my lord.
Happens, that the recommendations provided to you and you intend select the successful applicants according to available species. So your selection is based on the recommendation.
In fact, I rubber stamp, put it that way. If I have just to put it that way, it's point blank, I rubber stamp.
All right. Your Lordship, the state request for the statement and attachment of Mr. Moses Mauri Hungirire's statement to be submitted as an exhibit.
Will it be XX3?
Your Lordship, I don't have the record of the last exhibit.
We only marked one exhibit during this session.
Yes, Your Lordship.
I
It was
think
only one.
which is the letter to the Director General of NBC.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Mr. DFS?
Apologies, my lord. Lunch was a bit long. No objection, my lord. I'm saying apologies to my cell phone, my lord. No objection, my lord.
The affidavit is marked Exhibit XX3.
Thank you, Your Lordship. Mr. Esau, let us move on. As part of your new facts that you've raised in this bill application, okay, just give me a minute, let me. Yes, on paragraph 3, you state that the applicant has been detained in pre-trial incarceration for about 2 years and 5 months between the time of his initial failed bail application in July 2020 and his current bail application, whilst the trial is yet to commence at some point or date to be established with extradition of the co-accused still being attempted by the state. You saw that?
Yeah.
Yes, that's your new fact.
Yes, my lord, that time. Yeah, this, for this application, my lord.
Yes. I have good news to announce for you. The trial dates are set for October this year, running to next year, I believe about June. Are you excited to hear that news?
My Lord, it's breaking news.
Ah.
It's breaking news, but I want to have the opportunity to prepare myself proper for that very trial.
Yes, I'm just addressing the new fact that you raised, that the trial is yet to commence at some point or date to be established. I'm informing you the date has been established. It appears from your new fact you wanted the date to be established. It has been established. So we can commence with the trial in October.
Okay.
Can we commence, Mr. Esau?
I want it to commence today even.
Is it-
Even today.
Even today?
Yeah, even now, even. You can start with the trial, my Lord. I am ready for it.
All right, instruct your counsel to represent you for the trial. He said he's not representing you.
I don't have the funds, my Lord, presently.
All right, I see. And you also complained about the matters being joined and that this will be a lengthy trial since they are joined. Is that so?
Yes, those were my new facts as well. They
Okay.
joined.
Okay. If this trial were to be separate trials, you appreciate that there will be two separate judges hearing the matters. You appreciate that?
My Lord, I do take note of that, but I want also to add to this very issue of the joining of the two cases. My Lord, in terms of joining these two cases, I need for sure time for preparation of this very trial of the two cases. There, as I've stated already, there are gaps in the disclosure. Some documents were never in fact disclosed to at least to establish the proper flow of decision making in terms of rights and quota allocations.
Okay. You appreciate that if there are two separate trials, there'll have to be two separate judges appointed to deal with those trials.
I do take note of that, my Lord, of what is the court saying.
Okay. And you've seen from the disclosed docket that some of the witnesses are the same witnesses in both cases.
I see that 340 something witnesses. Some are more than there are many. They appear for both cases.
Which means if the trials are separate, those witnesses will have to testify twice in both of your trials. And you yourself, natural fact, will have to testify twice as well in separate proceedings, yeah?
My Lord, those are technicalities, and I'm not a lawyer. I have also, my Lord, I was not against the joining of the two cases.
Oh, okay.
I was first, and then I said no. I withdraw.
Oh, okay. So you withdraw that. You are not against them being joined. Okay. Thank you. You've also laid evidence with regard to the health that you've testified on. You said you are receiving medication. You are taking
Correct.
medication for that. Okay. So you are being treated for your ailments.
I am treated for my ailment, for the sicknesses or illnesses.
Okay. And when you were ill, you testified that you were also taken to the private hospital.
I was admitted, my Lord. I brought these admissions to the attention of the court, my Lord.
Okay.
Under the attention of the court.
Okay. Your Lordship, that is cross-examination.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bekas?
The Lord has indicated we would prefer to finalize the re-examination since we will have to canvass quite a number of aspects at the next proceedings, my Lord.
Is that to say we should adjourn in this day?
My Lord, I would be indebted if you can adjourn now, then I can finalize the examination. The witness was on the stand for 4 or 5 days. And I wouldn't want to rush and squeeze in everything now within the next 40 minutes that we have, my Lord.
Okay.
Let's please the court.
Mr. Siomoni?
No objection to that.
Thank you. Mr. Altivezi?
Your Lordship, we want to see finality in this matter, and counsel really should have been prepared for re-examination. There have been breaks in between. We could even have re-examined on matters of that have been dealt with at the last sitting in cross-examination, but I'm in the hands of the court, Your Lordship. We still have an hour that you can utilize for re-examination.
You are making a valid point there by saying that he should have checked through the notes as the proceedings proceeded, and today he would just have finalized on today's cross. But he's indicating that it will take some time, so I would have wished that as we adjourn proceedings, I'm done with Mr. Esau's evidence and only look forward on other aspects. But it's just a matter of Mr. Bekas.
My Lord, not to be a bottleneck into the for the state. I can start with the re-examination. If I can have 5 minutes, my Lord, then I can start. Then we can take up the time.
All right, you'll have me called when you are ready.
Yes, please.
We'll adjourn. You may proceed, Mr. Diekas.
As it please the court, my lord. Mr. Esau, can you please go to Exhibit XX3?
Divider.
XX3. That is the affidavit by Mr. Moses Mariungurire.
I am there, my lord.
You testified now during the examination that he was the permanent secretary of the ministry that you formerly headed.
Correct, my lord.
When did you take over? Well, let's first start off the previous permanent secretary, as per your testimony, was Mrs.
Ulitala Hiberwa.
And she has since passed on.
Correct, my lord.
And Mr. Moses took over when?
In terms of his affidavit,
You can go to paragraph 11. He indicates and only took the position of permanent secretary from July 2015 after the retirement of Ms. T. Ivelua.
yes, my lord, that is correct in terms of his affidavit.
So from 2015 he was then the PS.
From 2015 July.
Now there was reference made to a policy statement that is attached to the affidavit.
Correct, my lord.
Policy statement marked MM1, guidelines for the granting of rights to harvest marine resources and the allocation of fishing quotas June 2013.
Correct, my lord.
Now what did not come out clear during cross-examination is, firstly, number one, whether you were aware of this policy, and secondly, whether this policy was approved by cabinet. As you've testified, that policies must always be approved by cabinet. Can you please clarify that aspect for us?
Number one, my lord, since this affidavit came from the former executive director, Dr. Moses Mariungurire, who took up office only in July 2015, after the retirement of Mrs. T. Hiverwa, for sure, this must have been a product, this policy, of the former PS who was in the office during the time 2013. And hence I'm saying things like this, changes in policy, is supposed to be brought under the attention when it's discussed by the administration or by the PS office. And I can testify that I had a policy which was given to me by the then Minister of Fisheries, the late Abraham Iyambo, in a green file, in fact, which I'm trying to locate. And that policy, I don't know what changes has this policy brought about vis-a-vis the policy which I got from the my late predecessor. So, in terms of awareness, my lord, I was not aware of the discussions of this very policy. Even approvals of policies. A policy matter is an issue of cabinet. It must go to cabinet. And if people have brought this policy for my signature, that was a misrepresentation for my signature, or to sign this thing.
This policy doesn't have your signature.
As presented here, there is no signature of mine, even to take note or acknowledge this very policy.
Was this policy, you can just be specific, was this policy presented to cabinet, yes or no?
No, not at all, my lord. And it's only the minister who can present policies to cabinet. And that's why I was testifying here in the cross, not in the cross, in the what do you call it, when I was asked by the state that where is the cabinet submission towards this policy? Gap. Where is the cabinet submission?
On this one,
Correct, my lord.
you don't know of any cabinet
No,
submission?
I don't know of any cabinet.
Now let's move along. Now we must also clarify a particular aspect. We will take them to paragraph 4 of the affidavit of, I can only say Mr. Moses, the surname is difficult for me. Paragraph 4.
Correct, my lord.
And what he indicated there is that the procedures and regulation for fishing rights and quotas are as follows. The Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources will call for Namibians to apply for fishing rights via government notice. And the notice stipulating the different species that are available for application and giving the specific period. The period the applications are to be launched at the ministry. Now what I want you to clarify is, in this paragraph 4, it refers to applications for Namibians to apply for fishing rights via government notice. Namibians.
Correct, my lord.
Now you are charged with, obviously, the bilateral agreement. Does this also apply to instances with foreign entities? This process that is explained here,
It's domestic, my lord.
domestic.
If I have to put it that, it's a domestic process, this one.
So what is the domestic? Firstly, tell us what is the domestic process, and are there any other processes so we can just have clarity?
Correct, my lord. As it is reflected in para 4 of this this para is the same as the para as what was captured in the old policy. There's no difference in terms of Namibians to apply for fishing rights via government notice, and that stipulates the different species that are available for application and giving the specific periods the applications are to be launched at the ministry. This is the same as the old policy. So there is no difference between this and that. Now, in terms of the domestic Namibians to apply, this is for Namibians. It is not for foreigners. Now, in terms of the fisheries agreement, my lord, in terms of fisheries agreement, this very section 35 of the Marine Resources Act is giving the countries who are having an agreement with Namibia on fisheries cooperation, it gives them the opportunity to be considered, to put it that way, for the granting of a fishing right. That is foreign companies. That's why Nangoma Pesca Limitata was considered under this MOU, Article 8, if I'm not mistaken, and Section 35 of the Marine Resources Act. The MOU, now I'm talking about the MOU between Namibia and Angola, the agreement.
Is that process then different from the process referred to in paragraph 4 of Mr. Moses' affidavit?
The domestic process is different to this one.
Different. Okay. And you are not charged with the domestic process?
I'm not charged for the domestic process.
And in respect of awarding rights to non-right holders, like for example, Fishrot and the other companies, do they also follow the process as outlined in paragraph 4 here?
Fishrot has an act, and by virtue of the principal object of the act, Fishrot has already a right, and I have testified on that, I assume, my lord, in my evidence in chief. If you open up the Fishrot Act, the National Fishing Corporation Act, of 1991, if I'm not mistaken, the object is very clear. The principal object of that act is very clear. So Fishco is already, by virtue of its law, in fact, having a right. The other ones, like for argument's sake, fish consumption, those ones, I had to go to cabinet because those are other in terms of the amendment of the law of the Marine Resources Act. So I went to cabinet and I have testified with that very as well. So it's a different process.
Okay. So we can move on, Mr. Esau. Now we also need to clarify another aspect, and that relates to interaction with Mr. Ricardo Gustavo. You need to provide me with a copy of the affidavit, my lord. I just want to go to the specific wording. Yes. Now what I want you to clarify is, during your examination in chief and also during court examination, you testified that you were introduced to Mr. Ricardo by the former PS. You said it was just a brief introduction. You recall that?
Correct, my lord.
Now, part of your affidavit that you filed in the initial bail application was presented to you, where you said you never indirectly interacted directly with you on any occasion whatsoever. He is not a friend, acquaintance, and a business matter. I had no knowledge whatsoever of his involvement in this matter.
Correct, my lord.
Are you there? Paragraph 47.4.
47.4, my lord.
Now, you need to clarify for us, Mr. Esau, what do you consider interaction?
Interaction. I'm not a linguistic expert, my lord, but interaction means at least sitting, talking about issues of common interest, sitting, understanding the needs of that somebody or my needs to that somebody. So, and also not only you don't meet once, you need to meet at least for several occasions where you interact with somebody, my lord. I am in fact trying to explain interaction. I don't have an Oxford dictionary here, but I'm trying to at least to explain it in the context I understand. Interaction, interacting. I have not at least continuously, I was not in touch, if you put it that way, with Ricardo Gustavo.
Did you consider the introduction as interaction between the two of you?
Nope, there was nothing of such. There was not. It was just a very, very brief kind of, while I was standing, in fact, I was on my way out. I was standing on my way out. To my recollection, my lord, I never had to sit down with him.
Now, there's a further critical matter that we need to resolve, or at least to clarify, Mr. Esau. Do you have the copy of Joanna Stephenson there?
Yes, my lord, I have a copy of Joanna Stephenson.
Now, you remember during court examination, it was put to you that you were part of the scheme and that part of a very secret meeting. You recall that?
Correct, I recall that
I want us to deal with that aspect of the secret meeting and to clarify that one. That was in paragraph
47.
Court, just bear with me for a second, my lord. My affidavit is not punched, so I need to, or stapled, my lord. I need to get the specific page number now. I believe it was page
Page 20, my lord.
Page 20, my lord. Thank you, Mr. Lutvezi. I'm just quickly looking for my page 20, my lord. For some reason I have now misplaced my page 20.
You can make use of this. You found one.
No, my lord. If I may make use of copy. I found it, my lord. Apologies. I mean, page 20?
Correct, my lord.
Now, if you recall, during cross-examination, it was put to you that, and when this part was read, that there was a secret meeting. And in your answer, you said that there was no secret meeting, and you went on further to rebut the allegation that there was a discussion that 25% of the usage fee would be paid in Namibia and around 75% would be paid in Angola. You recall that?
Outside.
Outside Namibia. Sorry, not in Angola, outside Dubai.
Yeah,
Yes.
Dubai.
Now, I want us to quickly do a little bit of introspection into that particular paragraph that you were taken through, and for us just to dissect it and to get clarity on it. What was the discussion that took place on that day, according to what Mr. Stephenson is saying? Are you with me? Okay. Now, according to Mr. Stephenson, and I will read, during one of these meetings, I took a photograph of Mr. Esau sitting next to Torstein Maar Balwitsen, CEO of Samergy. I attached this photograph as per Annexure JS25, as well as a Google Earth image of the position of this residence in Windhoek. It was taken on 20 October 2015 at the house of Tamsin in Windhoek. Are you there?
Correct, my lord. I am together.
I took the photo and TH, referring to Tamsin Itukilipi, was also present. It was a secret meeting between the two people, but matters only discussed in general, like bringing in vessels, the fishing industry in Namibia, and other related matters. The most urgent discussion was on assurances that Samergy would have fishing capacity if required, in brackets, vessels. Are you there?
Correct, my lord.
Okay, let's pause there. From your understanding here, what is Mr. Johanna Stephenson saying? What was apparently discussed in the secret meeting?
If I have to start reading, my lord, from the sentence, I think it's the one.
But matters only discussed in general?
I just want, in the cross-exam, to say, just to reiterate the fact that these meetings, which is alleged by Stephenson, I was never in meetings. That was at the residences of James or at the residences or somewhere else at Investec.
We will get there. We will get there. Let's first deal with what Mr. Stephenson, we need clarity on what he said, what happened in that meeting.
My Lord, I was introduced to the CEO of Summary.
Mr. Esau, you seem to be missing the point.
Yes.
Not what actually happened when you were there, but he's asking about what is Mr. Stephenson saying in his affidavit, that which happened at the residence, according to him. If you look at the affidavit,
Yeah.
that's how I understand the question.
No, thanks,
So-
my Lord.
Yes.
Let me just assist you. What Mr. Stephenson was saying, what happened in this secret meeting, just listen. But matters only discussed in general, like bringing in vessels, the fishing industry in Namibia, and other related matters. The most urgent discussion was on assurances that Samherji would have fishing capacity if required vessels. Are you there?
I'm trying to.
That is what he's saying, what happened at that meeting at the house.
The most urgent discussions.
The most
You know,
urgent
Mr.
discussion.
Beakas, I can allow you to be, you can be direct to him,
Okay.
because it's the affidavit at least.
The
is
affidavit,
here.
yes.
Yes.
The most urgent discussion was on assurances that Samherji would fishing capacity if required vessels. Mr. Esau,
Yes, I am.
just listen to me. I've paused there. From what he has said there, was there any discussion, according to his statement here, that the Nemgomar scheme was discussed at that meeting at the house?
There was no discussions pertaining to that very issue.
According to what he's saying.
According to what he's saying
He's
here, is a
saying
misrepresentation of fact.
Just listen, Mr. Esau. From what I've read to you now, at that meeting at the house, he is saying the matters only discussed were in general, like bringing in vessels, the fishing industry in Namibia, and other related matters. Urgent discussion was assurances that Samherji would have fishing capacity if required vessels. That is what he is saying. Are you there, Mr. Esau?
Yes, I'm trying to.
From what I've read to you now, is there any mention there that they were discussing the Nemgoma scheme at that meeting?
Not at all, my Lord.
Okay.
Not at all.
Now, if you read the affidavit further, he's saying it was clear from the meetings with James and others that the main objective was for them to benefit and for other high profiles as the Minister of Fisheries, Bernhardt Esau, to benefit as well. It was also clear from the meetings that they wanted around 25% in the usage fee to be paid in Namibia and around 75% to be paid outside of Namibia, like in Dubai. Are you there?
I am there, my Lord.
Now, there is now a second part that Mr. Stephenson is referring to. It was clear from the meetings with James and others. From here, he does not indicate that you were part of those meetings, correct?
Correct, my Lord. I was not part of any meetings.
So from having read this paragraph at least, or the context of this paragraph, does Mr. Stephenson say in his affidavit at the meeting at your house, there was a discussion of the Nemgomar scheme?
Not at all, no mention about this, my Lord. I can't see anything.
Except to say if it's in relation to the affidavit, it's at the son-in-law's house, not at...
Yes, sorry, at the son-in-law's house. And from what we've read now, my lord, is that the only matters were discussed was in general,
Yes.
not the scheme, as it pleases the court.
Yes, you may proceed.
Now, you will also take an affidavit, paragraph through paragraph in this particular affidavit of Mr. Johannes Stephenson. In this affidavit, does he indicate that he was involved in any meeting with you to discuss this Nemgomar scheme?
Not at all, my Lord.
But you testified that he referred to others, saying that you would be informed.
Correct, my Lord.
Okay. At page 10, The last bullet, are you there?
Yes, correct, my lord, I am there.
It was said in 2014, the work continued, and James Hatukilipi indicated that 5 million Namibian dollars was needed for payments to high-level politicians. He only mentioned Minister Esau, but did not mention the names of others, but many times indicated that there were some other high-level politicians in Namibia to drive the matter through. This amount was subsequently paid from the bank account of Mermeria Seafood to the account of Irongo Clearing and Forwarding, a company Thamson in Namibia. In this regard, see invoice number 2014 dated 21 July 2014 from Katla Seafood Namibia Ltd to Irongo Clearing and Forwarding. Are you there?
Correct, my lord, I am there.
Now, you previously testified in your record examination, you confirmed that you received 150,000 payment from Irongo Clearing in 2012.
12, yes, my lord.
And that
correct.
was in respect of cattle.
Correct, cattle
To your son-in-law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My lord.
Now, here, according to this affidavit, 5 million was needed for politicians, to pay politicians, including yourself. You see that?
I can see here, my lord, in this affidavit.
Okay. Now, shortly after, let's say the money, according to this affidavit, was paid 21 July 2014. Are you there?
Correct, my lord.
Was any of those 5 million paid to you, either through, as alleged, the Irongo Clearing, or from Katla Seafood Namibia?
Nothing at all, my lord. I have not received any, and I have also, I can attest that with my bank account, because it's a huge, it's a lot of money here. You talk about, you cannot just carry the money like that. You must go.
If you go down on page 11, the first bullet, like from the middle of the bullet, we need clarity from you on this aspect. This is a cardinal part of the charges that you are facing, that as part of the Nangoma scheme, there was an agreement, and according to this affidavit that we were taken through, Thorsten Malbitson and James, together with Joanna Stephenson, they agreed that the real usage fee of 75% would be paid over to buy Tundavela Investments Limited, and that the 25% would be paid in Namibia. And this scheme was allegedly, or this agreement was allegedly concluded overseas, in Iceland. Are you there?
I am there, my lord.
Now, this is a critical part of the state's case. Were you aware of this so alleged real agreement that 75% of the quota usage fee that Nangomar would receive, that would then be paid overseas to Dubai? Were you aware of that?
I was not aware of such kind of arrangements, my lord.
Were you informed
Not at all, my
of
lord.
such an
Not at all.
arrangement?
Not at all, my lord.
Was anything ever discussed in your presence concerning such arrangement?
None. Nothing, my lord.
I'm almost done with this editorial, my lord. Just one more aspect. You remember when you testified during cross-examination at page 9 to 10 of this affidavit of Mr. Stephenson?
Correct, my lord.
And at the bottom it is indicated that is now page 9. The agreement is attached as per Annex JS 11. This dummy agreement was made to cover the payments, bribes to him and others, including Minister Esau, as I understood. What do you understand when Mr. Stephenson is saying that he understood that you received payments?
That is what he, the author of this very affidavit, said he understood. that I am also party as a beneficiary of payments made by them. That's the summary. I was never party, neither a beneficiary in terms of payments made by summary to any entity, even from the 1st of January 2014.
My Lord, I believe that we've reached our quorum for today. It's already 4 o'clock.
Okay.
I will push further, my Lord, at the next commencement of the proceedings to finalize the re-examination. Unless there's any objection from a minute and that he still wants to proceed. I'm just yanking his chain, my Lord.
I intend to adjourn proceedings for 2 weeks at least. Is the 9th of June, Friday, the 9th of June, going to be convenient? I just want to allow the parties to arrange for further dates for hearing. Should that be fine?
The Lordship is fine in the state.
Yes.
Equally in order with this.
Yes.
There is an order, my Lord. Please the court.
I'll just indicate that dates for the hearing of this bail application were arranged before, and the arrangement was only until this sitting. So there were no dates agreed beyond this sitting. So for that reason, I've directed counsels to approach the registrar to arrange for further dates. I'll adjourn proceedings for 2 weeks to allow that to happen, where they will look into their diaries. So I postponed the matter to the 9th of June, 9 June 2023 at 10 o'clock for allocation of dates for continuation of the bail hearing. Thank you for your assistance. We'll adjourn.
What?